here in the middle of October with a bill plan looming. So let's see, what am I going to talk about today? I want to talk about how our business is changing. I want to talk about how our business is evolving. I want to talk about the success factors that each one of us in the room, if we're not concerned about, we need to be concerned about. I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of build in general, construction in general, and I want to share a few things with you. So, first thing I want to share is if you're looking up here, this is a time-lapse home movie of a head-in build that is in altogether about 3 weeks down at the University of Georgia. And you'll see it continue to build and grow and build and grow and build and grow. And pretty amazing thing that happens over basically this is okay about a minute and 45 seconds. So then I'll show you what it looks like. So, what is on your mind? What kind of questions would you have for me if you can ask me anything? Well, know that I would answer it, but what's on your mind? Somebody speak in. Give me a yell out. What's my bill plan? Okay, I will give a forward-looking view of that. Here you see here, I see. So let's talk a little bit about that while we're going through here. So, 2014 for the Attendance Missions Group at AT&T. I know there's been a lot of stuff in the press and all that good sort of thing. Folks, from an AT&T perspective in the in-building space, we actually have more money in the budget today than we did on January the 1st of this year. So what is happening with it is a couple of different things. We got out of the gate early, we got out of the gate fast, and we consumed a lot of that budget very early in the year. You know, we're still for a lot of where the business is at, we're still very based on high capacity communities. So that means that April 1st is always a great day for us because it's the opening of baseball season. We know that June 1st rolls around and that is the opening of Major League Soccer. We know that the middle of August is a really good time for us because that is football. We know that the first part of October is a really good time for us because that is basketball and ice hockey. And it goes on and on and on. And then there's various conventions out in the States, Orlando, New York City, and all those sorts of things. So, we got out of the game. We've had, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best years we've ever had. Everything looks good. Performance is about where we want it. We've got a couple of stadiums that, quite frankly, I'd like to see some really good improvement on. They are stadiums where, you know, we are a tenant on that DAS. It's not, it's got some work to do. So that's kind of where we're at. What's 15 look like? 15 is more of the same. Really shifting now more into the tall vertical space, into the hospitality space. From a stadium's perspective, you're going to see a lot of capacity type work done in those stadiums. The network, well, first of all, let me ask you this question. Are we all involved in the greatest business on earth? Boy, that answer better be yeah. It ought to be. I think we are. And so you're going to see our capacity ad business in 15. You're probably going to see it triple. Had a pretty good little business out of it this year. Going to see a lot of activity as we're adding additional capacity into the network. So there's going to be a lot of work going on there. There's going to be a lot of treatment of some of these DASs out here that are some of the ones from, pre-2010 or so, and even some of them older than that are probably Some of you guys have probably got, well, I won't say they're as old as I am, but those dads are getting pretty damned old. They're at end of life, and in order to do upgrades on them, they are a rip and replace. And for those of you who, and those of us in the room who engineer and construct, there's nothing worse than a rip and replace. It's kind of like remodeling an old historical home. But they all have to be done because that's what we need in the network. So, remember that little fast build that you saw there? There is the end result. This is the head end, or a good part of the head end down in at the University of Georgia in Athens. It is a beautiful head end, neutral host. It serves, this is a quarter of what it serves. A sea of red. Any Georgia fans? Maybe not. There were times during this build with any of these that are big like this, is where you have a love-hate relationship. I love Georgia now. It was a bit of a headache getting to this point, but it is pretty awesome. So let's talk about how technology's changed over the years. Okay, so it's not been too many years ago that 35% of us had a smartphone. I venture to say in this room today, if I was to ask you, how many of you have smart devices, and how many of you have multiple smart devices on your person right now, the answer in this room would probably be 100%. Would you agree with me? Okay? It's not been too long ago that only a very few of us ever used their mobile device to bank with. How many, can you tell me the last time you went to the bank? When you actually walked up to the bank, not the ATM at the bank, but you went into the bank lobby and you transacted business in the bank? I can tell you the last time I did. It's when I bought my house in 2010. Last time I was in the bank. And that's a good thing. So, e-com, it is outpacing brick and mortar right now. Are you guys beginning to see the same shift that I am with brick and mortar type stores and how they're doing business, and the fact that I can go online today, place my order at a traditional brick and mortar and pick it up that afternoon? Or there's a couple of brick and mortars in Dallas right now that if I pay them an additional $5, they'll drop it off at the house. Is that not awesome? I'm doing that by mobile device. Okay? Tablets. This is a shocker for me. Today, tablet sales are growing faster than PC sales ever thought about. So, how many of you have uploaded video in the last week? Okay. Not too long ago, we were, about 24 hours of video was being uploaded every minute. Today, it's more than 100 hours of video are being uploaded every minute. Major, major, major increase. And then, don't know about you, but between my pad and between my iPhone, I've probably got 8,000 pictures. My grandbaby takes up probably half of that. Okay? But anyway, and then of course today, 10 billion connected devices and growing. So we are in a great industry. Okay? So, how many of you tend to shop? You really kind of stop going to the hardware store and you just have the hardware store. You order it from the hardware store and it delivers to you on your front porch. I'm doing it. It's just a whole heck of a lot easier. How many of you are reading and purchasing books over off your pads or off your mobile devices? I am. Although I still like that good book in my hand. And then I use it to communicate with. Didn't get to today, but every day at about noon Central, I usually spend time FaceTiming with my grandbaby. So it's brought a big change into our life, and it's just been a short one. All right, so what's this mean for public venues? It means that for our customers, your customers, all consumers, that they want to do the same thing inside of a large public venue, whether it be a stadium, whether it be a convention center, whether it be an airport, a hospital, hotels such as this one. They want to do the same thing in those types of venues that they do anywhere else. They don't care whether or not it's coming across the macro network. They don't care if their service is being provided by a DAS or by a small cell or by a Pico or Wi-Fi. They don't care. What's important? It's important that they have a network which enables that to happen. They don't care. Okay? So, evolving over to HetNet. So what's taking us there? So of course it's about monetization. And it's monetization both from a customer perspective and certainly from a carrier perspective, from the ecosystem perspective. I don't know about you, but I think we're all in this room, to do some pretty good things, but we're also here to make money. Do you agree with me? Anybody that's not, but you're in the wrong place. Okay? HetNets are a necessity because of traffic growth. What's driving traffic? It's new services and support that's needed for the new services. It's also about limited spectrum. It's about network congestion. It's about densification. And it's also about the availability of some pretty good wireless equipment, and there's also some wireless equipment that's out in the market today. It quite frankly probably needs to go back into the lab. But that's what it takes to evolve to the HetNet, at least in Paula Doublin's opinion. These are the reasons why we're doing this, and it all revolves, all of it, around the customer experience. And none of us in this room can ever forget that it is about the customer experience. It is about the end user. Okay? So, supporting the big game with HetNets. We actually had a HetNet running up in a little city called New York City back in February for the big game. And of course that big game was spread from the island of Manhattan all the way out into Jersey. And we had 85,000 people in attendance at the Super Bowl, 624 gig of total data usage, and surprisingly 55,000 calls that came out of there. We used a combination, particularly over on the island, of DAS, cell on wheels, Wi-Fi, and then of course over at MetLife we had built a big, beautiful DAS. A neutral host that had 3 tenants on it. Still does have 3 tenants on it, and it behaved pretty damn nice, if I do say so myself. So this is, I'm going to step along here because I want to leave some time for questions. One of the things that we need to get very simple and very crisp on in our language, and that's about coverage and capacity solutions. I don't think personally, I don't think that people get the difference between coverage and capacity. Two very distinct things, they go hand in hand. You can have great coverage. Another way of looking at that is that if I got a lake, okay, a dam, depending on where you're at, in South Africa they call a lake a dam. But if you got a lake and you got a foot of water in it, you've certainly got coverage, but do you have capacity? No. That same lake, you bring your fill level up to 20 feet, baby, you got capacity. Okay? I don't think everyone in the industry understands that. Another way of looking at it is that you can put a really great in-building solution in, whether it be small cell or whether it be a DAS or whatever, but if you don't put capacity behind it, whether it be with the backhaul capacity or the radio capacity behind it, you pretty much wasted your money. Okay? But this is doing a comparison. So for example, with a macro cell, a traditional cell site, cell tower, maximum users plus minus 500. In the good old flatlands, you can get a radius of about 25 miles worth of coverage. If you drop down into the small cell world, about 32 users, and you can cover a radius of a .094 miles. Okay, that's not a lot. We have a normalization here, that this is normalized for a 5-mile radius design. And you can see the larger the image, the more access points or antennas that you are going to need. So you can just barely see the macro there. You can see how many access points that you would be dealing with from a Wi-Fi perspective, femto, and then the small cell. Okay? This is something that is good knowledge, at least in my world, is good knowledge to have as you go in and you talk to cities, particularly around ODAS or outdoor small cells, is they have to understand what we're dealing with here. Okay? So let's talk a little bit further about HetNets and what it takes to deploy them. You got SIDAC, you got power, you got backhaul, you got interoperability, you've got alarming and maintenance, you got customer service, and you got technical skill. You got to have all of those to deploy a macro. What about a DAS? You got to have it all. What about a Wi-Fi? You got to have it all. What about a small cell? You got to have it all. I'm here to tell you that the small cells are a great thing. I'm also here to tell you that I don't believe that the deployment of small cells is a walk in the park. There are the same challenges with small cells as there are with Wi-Fi, as there are with DAS, as there are with macros. And we have to deal with those. So some of you guys have probably heard me say this, but I cringe when I hear the word plug and play. There is no such thing. Okay? So the network is going to continue to evolve. From an AT&T perspective, we have a program that's called VIP, and that is all about LTE, it is all about IP broadband, it is all about deep fiber networks. You are seeing AT&T do a video first architecture. That is the architecture to which we are working toward and which we are deploying today. We are also working very closely on 21st century public policy for 21st century networks. It is, at least my opinion, that public policy, while it is making some pretty good strides, it's got a ways to go. We are all about the user-defined network cloud. Okay? We are actively virtualizing our network. We're very software-centric in our infrastructure and our services and our solutions. The one thing that I do know is if you don't have a good infrastructure behind it, software-centric, software-defined networks aren't going to work. We're working to improve the cost structure. I think is that, I've been in the business now for 30 plus years, and I think I've heard improve the cost structure 35 of those years. And also about improved cycle times. So we have projects and imperatives going on right now that are addressing each and every one of those, particularly around the cost structure and the improved cycle time. From a cost structure perspective, it's not that we're going to take that money and go somewhere else with it. We are going to invest it back into the network. So instead of, building 1,500 projects a year, we'll turn that money back around and we'll build 1,700 a year. That money stays in the in-building space for AT&T. Okay? Agile. Simplified processes. I don't know about you, but AT&T has got some of the most bifurcated processes I have ever seen in my life. Sometimes I wonder who did these. And then I look down in the lower left-hand corner and it's got my name on it. Oh my. We've got to get better at this. We have got to get better at simplified processes, and I would say the entire vendor community has to get better in terms of simplified process. Standardized platforms. The days of proprietary hardware running proprietary software on a proprietary network are going away. We are looking for good quality commodity products for the network. Does that mean that we're going to have 101 different widgets for the same thing? No, it doesn't. Does it mean we're going to have one? No, it doesn't. There's going to be a happy median in there. Never, at least in the Antenna Solutions group, will you find us putting all of our eggs in one basket. I've seen a basket of eggs drop in one time in my life, and we had a single source supplier on it. And let me tell you, it was a painful period to clean up after all that egg. Never happen again. But we're also not going to have 101 different suppliers of the same type of widget. Okay? Effortless customer interaction is the next piece of agile. It's an old cliche, and it's a very true one, is that you have to be easy to do business with. And if you're not, you're going to hurt yourself. We will hurt ourselves if we don't become easier to do business with. And we go through these periods where, you get everything running very, very smoothly. And then the smoother things run, the more you start to add on to it and that sort of thing. And it becomes more complex.